Okay, fellow hikers, I have been using a Snow Peak Litemax titanium stove for the last few trips coming off a jet boil. I have swapped over back to a canister stove and with a Toke's 700 milliliter cup. So I felt like my performance with the Litemax, maybe it used too much fuel. Was there a better option out there? So I've heard a lot of people talk about these little BRS3000 stoves. This is the one that probably most famously Darwin uses. I've already done a couple so I ordered one off of Amazon, very cheap. This one actually was not even the BRS, they were sold out. This is some FOMO something or another. But but the part number, foam, my bad, not FOMO, foam. But the part number was BRS3000, the exact same part number. So it was $8.99, so I figured let's give it a shot. $8, that's pretty daggone cheap. Let's see what's up. So I've already taken some preliminary readings from the Litemax. So I used the same canister the entire time. This is just a regular jet boil 8-ounce canister. So I've used the same canister. I weighed the canister before I started. It was 239. I heated 500 milliliters of water. It took 345 to come to a boil. That was with the lid on until I inspected for the boil. So 345 is probably a little subjective. You know, I'm listening for what I think is a rolling boil, remove the lid, confirm the boil, and say, okay, that's a boil. Cut it off. Weighed, actually went and weighed the stove and on the canister and came to 286. Now the stove is 56 grams. The Litemax stove is 56 grams net weight. So if you do the math on that, that came out with 230 grams. So 239 minus 230, 9 grams of fuel used on the first boil. This is all in my house. Thermostat's been on 71 the entire time. I'm using standard tap water in the exact same canister, cooled to room temperature each time. Second boil, 500 milliliters of water, exactly again. 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Same thing, lid on, all the same conditions. This time I got 276, so 286 minus 276 is 10 grams. 10 grams used, so 9 to 10 grams per boil. All right, so mounted the BRS up. The BRS net weight is 25 grams. I led with that. So canister with stove on top of it, 245, which is 276 minus 56 is 220. 220 plus 25 is 245. So we didn't even lose any gas screwing the stove on and off. I was a little surprised by that. No gas loss. That was readable on a standard, gram scale. Now I'm doing everything in grams. I think ounces are too big of a measurement to get accurate. All right, so we've done one boil already. 500 milliliters of water, just like what we've been doing. It boiled in 325. Same situation. This is all within probably the last hour. 238 grams was our net weight after the fact. That's 7 grams. If you do the math, that's about 30%, 25 to 30% more efficient. That's pretty significant over the course of a few days of a hike. So I'm going to put this on here, boil one more time, and do the math on this and see what the deal is. I'm going to try to see if I can get the camera. Oh, sweet. Camera angle. Powered by Mr. Coffee. All right. We're just going to wait for a boil though here. I'm going to assume it's going to be 3 minutes like what we've been doing. I actually wanted to add in an MSR pocket rocket for good measure. Pocket Rocket 2, excuse me, the brand new one. For good measure. Kind of like to know how that one works as well. One thing I have noticed with the Litemax, which was not a problem with the Jetboil, was its wind ability. Wind really affects these things. You have to be diligent about protection from the wind. The very first trip out with the Litemax, we went to Grayson on a windy spring day and had to do quite a few things, tried to get creative. Sleeping pads behind rocks, you know, use your pot, you know, your freezer bag cozy. Try to keep it from getting affected by the wind. I don't remember when we started this, but this thing's already getting pretty hot. It's gonna boil at any minute, any second rather, of course any minute. It's really close to boiling. Alright, confirmed boil right there. So that was about 7:35 on my timer. Whoops, 7:35 on my timer. So we'll look back to when we lit the stove to do the net time. Let's weigh this thing, see what we got. All right. So okay, 330, repeatable a few times. So 230. How about your other 230? Your other 230 grams. So the second boil took roughly 8 grams. So temperature's been steady. One time we had 9 grams on one use, down to 7. One time we had 10, down to 8. I mean, so can we conservative? I mean, we can say pretty confidently 20% boil if that's the case. You know, 20% more efficient. If that's the case, I mean, how much gas does that really save you? I mean, still, if you're able to get 10 boils out of a canister just per se, can you get 12 boils? I mean, does that make the difference on a 3 or 4 day backpacking trip carrying a spare canister versus carrying one 8-ounce? You know? Oh, well, actually, I guess I could have looked on here. 8 ounces is 230 grams. Yeah, so instead of 23 boils, you're able to get 28 boils. I mean, that's significant. I mean, you're talking about 5 more boils per canister if you're going to be out for an extended period, which I'm generally not. I mean, you know, 4 nights is kind of my 2 to 4 nights is, you know, my 2 to 3 nights, excuse me, you know, the standard 4-day weekend kind of thing. So still something to think about. $10, half the price. Just my initial, if it lasts. But frankly, even if you're scared about its longevity, you could carry 2 of these stoves. You could completely have a backup stove for less than the weight of one Litemax and way cheaper. I think the Litemax is $60. I want to say, I'm going off memory there. It's $55, $60, something along those lines, versus 10 or 12. You know, so you buy 2, have the less weight, and a backup stove. Golly, even if you nick an O-ring, umpteen different things, which sounds like it has some people have complained about the O-rings on these. Let me see if this is cool enough that I can take it off now. All right, I don't have any gas leakage like everybody talks about. That O-ring looks like a standard fare O-ring. Now that was on and off one time. There's nothing special about that. I did see one of them selling on Amazon. It came with a spare O-ring. So that was kind of interesting. I felt like that. I wondered if that wasn't a popular replacement problem. You know, people returned the entire stove for a 2-cent O-ring. So I was going to fold this really quick just so you can see what you're working with packed for packed, because that's about the only thing that we haven't looked at. Okay, so the arms don't stay in place very good, you can see. So fold up the Litemax nest together. So physical versus physical. Let's do a lighter. This is a standard Bic lighter, kind of for comparison's sake. Got a little bit of glare there. So there's a standard Bic lighter for comparison's sake. All right, if you've got any comments, leave them in the block below. Any questions, anything I can weigh for you, anything else I can run. This is just a water boil comparison test. I generally do backpacker pantry and pouch freezer bag kind of meals. So water boiling would be what I would be doing. If you like the channel, please give it a like and a subscribe. Thank you. So one last test. I wanted to know about, okay, confirm the boil on the last video too. We started at 415, went to 735, so a 320 burn boil time, so very similar to the first boil. Okay, I wanted to know if I put the stove on the canister, would it fit in the toques? Because obviously, well, both will fit laid down and removed from the canister. Now, I've already checked with the Snow Peak. I just did it a second ago. I went and grabbed a jet boil just for to make sure. I don't think there's any variance in these two cans, but let's double check it. Let's be correct if we're gonna tell people, you know, something does something. Now I did get a little leakage when I got a little that time too, when I put it on the smaller canister, and I don't understand why that is. All right, that nests and looks like, yes, that's a fit. Okay, so both the Snow Peak canister, the Gigapower regular 4 ounce now, 4 ounce, not the 8 ounce we were testing with, the 4 ounce, the small, or the 8 ounce or the 4 ounce jet boil, which I'm sure the MSR, but I do not have one here to test. Either one of these will fit in the 700 toques with the canister still on it. Pretty neat. So that's kind of cool if you just want to pull it out and go to cooking. You don't have to worry about, which granted is super minimal to put the stove on there, but maybe you just don't want to thread the stove on and off. If the O-ring is the issue, maybe leaving the stove in place and not removing it from the canister quite so often is the fix. Just an idea.